So I talk a lot about building businesses to generate cash flow to invest in other assets. So at an early point in my career, I had a construction company. If you heard my story or listened to it, I started out as a remodeling contractor and then started building spec houses. I did a video the other day on the first little spec houses that I did. And then I also had a remodeling company. So you can see some of these houses over here behind me here. I had a remodeling company and I was doing a project for a client, and my remodeling company, it was a $200,000 project, something like that. It wasn't huge, but it was one of the bigger ones that I'd done at the time. There's one of the houses we built right there. So the client comes to me, and I just started the project. He gave me a deposit, comes to me about a month in, and he says, hey, if I pay you all of the cash for the project now, I think there was 150,000, 200,000 left on the project. He said, if I went ahead and just gave you all the money now, would you give me a 10% discount? So I thought about that for a minute and I said, all the money now for a 10% discount. And I thought, what could I do with all that money? Now, I had just started learning how to build spec houses. So I said, sure, I will take that. You pay me now for the entire project. And I still had 6 months left to go on it. And I will give you a discount. There's another one of the houses back there. So what I did was I came into this neighborhood here, and this was right at the peak of the boom, probably 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. And I came in this neighborhood and there were, I don't know, only about 20 lots left that had not been built on in this particular development that I'm driving through right now of million-dollar beach houses and multi-million-dollar beach houses. So I came in here and flipped the camera over. There's a couple more of these houses. There's a couple more of those houses there that I came in, and I put all of the, I don't know, it was about 8 or 10 lots at the time that one seller was selling, that the original developers actually, who turned out the family was a friend of mine, that I didn't know at the time, but ended up being friends. So I came in here and I put all these lots under contract. So the idea was, this was one of those emerging subdivisions, and very close to the ocean, a lot of nice houses being built, a lot of nice projects going on. So I came in here and put these lots under contract, and then I turned around and marketed them, flipped the lots to some investors, and then I ended up building them the houses. And the only way they could get the land was they had to buy it from me, and they had to build a house with me. So I would not sell them the land without building them the house. So that's how they ended up being able to get into this community and get this property from me. And we're getting ready to come by one of the nicer ones, one of the last ones that was done, that were part of this. So this is another couple of houses. That's a really nice one there. The types of houses that I evolved to. So if you look at the last video, you saw where I was building those little bitty, little tiny spec houses that were like 1,200 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and I worked my way into building multi-million-dollar oceanfront houses like that one behind me there by controlling the land. So the moral of the story is, and the point of this video is, I had two things. One, I had a business that generated cash flow that I could use to invest in other assets. And in that particular case, I got paid for a job that I had not completed yet. And I was able to take that cash flow and use it for the deposits on those lots, because that was back when the market was hot, things were going good, and you couldn't tie up land without putting earnest money up. So I went in here and tied up these lots and put down, I don't know, this is about $1,000 or $5,000 for each lot. I can't remember in the lots. I can't remember what I paid for them back then, but it was early before the boom. They were under 100,000, I think, each. And then nowadays, or 10 years later, they were worth 250,000. Just the lots themselves have gotten all the way up to 250,000. So I put them under contract, flipped the lots, made 25, 30,000 on the lots, and then I made $100,000 on each house that I built for the investors. So that was one way to do it. So generating cash flow to utilize to invest in other assets, to grow and scale that cash. And I did all this in about a year. So this one neighborhood alone generated about $1 million in net profits in about a year, by doing that, by tying up the lots, flipping it, building all the houses. And then along the way, I went to some other neighborhoods, and like I said, so there was two ways to do the deal and to evolve the business. One was by controlling the land, and the other was by creating the land. So I started using the cash flow, and I would go and tie up other parcels and do the same thing. I would flip the land to the investor and then build them the house. The only way they could get the project was they had to have me build it, and they had to buy the land through me. Then I started buying oceanfront hotels, tearing them down, creating oceanfront, and I started focusing mostly on oceanfront lots and doing those types of things. So that, in a short story, was how I evolved from doing handyman work, remodeling work, into building little spec houses, and then ultimately into the multi-million-dollar houses like I just showed you, that we're sitting in front of right here. And you know, the other thing was, I had no idea how to build a house like that. I'd never built a house ground up before I started building spec houses, much less a multi-million-dollar house on the ocean front, which is very complicated in terms of the construction and what you need to do compared to, you know, building those other little beach boxes that I'd built. Oceanfront's a whole different set of rules, regulations that you need to consider. So what I did was I hired people that had been doing it for 20 years before I ever moved to the location, moved to the Outer Banks, moved to the beach where I was building. So I found people that were smarter than me, better than me, that had more experience than me, and I learned from them. We're just kind of drive through as I'm talking, taking a tour of this neighborhood and some of the houses, and you know, so it was a really, really interesting time. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot going on. There's another one of the houses we did as we go down the row here. So, you know, if you're out there doing deals, you got to think about, how can you create value? How can you position yourself for strength? What can you do? So for me, it was having the businesses first that generated the cash for me to be able to do these deals, and also to be able to be a borrower at the bank if I wanted to go do my own deals. I also leveraged other people's knowledge, skills, and experience to build the houses for me, and to do what I did not know how to do. And then ultimately parlayed all of that into capitalizing on the collective talents of the group. So none of us are as smart as all of us, right? So we ended up building a really nice building company. We had a great reputation. We were one of the top builders in the area. We went from zero in revenue the first year, from zero to 250,000. My first year to the year that I sold the company, we were doing $30 million. 7 years later, started, built up, sold off a bunch of other companies along the way. Did it all by finding great people, letting them do their job, finding people better and smarter than me. I learned from them. I humbled myself. I put them in a position to succeed, and I let them do what I brought them in to do. So you want to leverage your resources, leverage your opportunities, leverage the talents, skills, and abilities of other people. Become a leader, delegator, motivator, and become a coach and a mentor to your team. But more importantly than that, learn from your team. Let them do what you bring them in to do. Let them put the right seats in the right butts in the right seats. Coach them to success. Let them do their job. Let them create what it is that you brought them on to create, and do what it is you brought them on to do. And don't let yourself get in the way. That's number one. The worst thing you can have is a big ego, thinking you know everything, because guess what? The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. The more you learn, the more you have to learn. So that's the way I did it from scratch. I had no backing, no mentors, no coaching, had no money. Started everything from scratch by getting out, starting a little remodeling handyman company. I'm going to make a video here in a second on the first little bitty project that I did when I started that company, and it all went from there. It was a little deck addition on the back of a restaurant, $500 job. That's where it all started, that led to these multi-million-dollar houses and $1 million in profits in a year in this one little neighborhood that I just took you through.